Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. First, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're in Maumigi, the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We also acknowledge that people of African descent have been in Nova Scotia for over 400 years, and we honor and offer gratitude to those ancestors of African descent who came before us to this land. The agenda. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, can we get approval for the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Anyone declare any conflicts of interest with the agenda this evening? No. All good? All right, we'll start with the delegation, Don Grant Thornton, financial statements. The floor is yours.
All right, so my name is Aaron Kelly. I'm the senior accountant in charge of your audit engagement with Don Grant Thornton. Myself and Gloria Banks, she is the principal on the file. She's the big boss that signs off on everything. So her and I met with the audit committee on Monday and they got a very detailed report. Will and Rick were ever so enthralled. So for you guys tonight, we're just going to get a more pared down version, just try to hit the highlights. So in the financial statements that I handed out, we're just going to jump to page 2 is the independent auditor's report. This is the important part. So this is a clean audit opinion. That's what we're always hoping for. So in our opinion, the accompanying statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the town of Digby as at March 31st, 2025, in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. That's the accounting framework that you have to follow. So good job, everyone. Clean audit opinion. The basis for our opinion, we have conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. So there is a process that we have to follow. Every audit in Canada is there's the same process that gets followed, and it gets tailored down to the needs of every organization. So we believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide the basis for our opinion, and we believe that we fulfilled all our ethical responsibilities in accordance with the auditing standards. So as an other matter, so pages 24 to 30 of these financial statements are not required to be there, and as such, they're not audited. They do provide a lot of extra information and detail about the content of the statements, but under the standards, they're not required. So we only audit those pages 24 to 30 to whatever extent necessary to provide our opinion on the pages at the front. So that's just a disclaimer there. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these statements in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards and for such internal controls as they deem necessary to enable the statements to be free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the statements, management is also responsible for assessing the town's ability to continue as a going concern. So basically, going concern is, do you exist 12 months from now? So that's the look forward test that they have to do. And then those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the financial reporting process. Our responsibilities as your auditor, so our objective is to obtain a reasonable assurance that the statements as a whole present fairly. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it's not a guarantee. This is not an audit for fraud. We do have procedures in place to try and look for those things, but this is not every single transaction audit. It's a financial statement audit. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and would be considered material if individually or in aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of the users of the statements. So my running line is there a $10 mistake in these financial statements? It's possible. Is there a $1 million mistake in these financial statements? No. So that's it's a bit of an exaggerated example, but it illustrates the point. So also we have to identify and assess risks. So I do live here. We have a good relationship with the town. We kind of know how things are working. So it's not a start from scratch test every year, but we do have a process before we start just to kind of get an understanding of what's gone on, what might change, just in case we need to change our audit approach. So we do identify and assess the risks every year. We do audit everything, but we spend the most amount of times in the areas that we deem to have higher risk. We have to obtain an understanding of your internal controls. We don't audit them. We just have to understand how they function and are implemented, and then we did provide some commentary on those. We evaluate the appropriateness of your accounting policies and the reasonableness of any estimates. We conclude on the appropriateness of the going concern base of accounting. We evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the statements. And then lastly, we communicate with those chartered governance on our results. So that is the two most important pages. So we will just look at, on a high level, the statement of operations and the statement of financial position. So your statement of operations, page 4, which you otherwise might know as your income statement. So when we look at this, total revenue for the year, $8.875 million. That's up $2.3 million year over year, and it's $540,000 over your budget. So when we look at some of the items that go on in there, underneath your taxes, so tax revenue is up $500,000 year over year. So the biggest change we have going on there is the assessed value. So there was no change in your tax rates for 2025, but the assessed value of your residential property is up $10 million year over year, and the assessed value of your commercial property is up $2.6 million. So that's driving the biggest change. Environmental health services is also up $100,000 year over year, and it's slightly over your budget. That's just due to increased garbage rates and sewer rates. Then we also have the marketing levy. That's double what it was last year. So it was $87,000 this year versus $48,000 last year. But 2025 was the first full year of the levy. So that's why we see that. And that also is, that's not budgeted for. You do levy and then send out the money. It's not an in and out, so you don't have a budget item. So that is basically the biggest factor for your budget variance. And then also in your taxes, you have your appropriation to the school board. So that's money you collect. School board basically tells you this is what you owe us for the year, and you have to take that right off the top of your tax rate. So that's just money right out the door. Grants in lieu of taxes, very similar to last year. Bang on your budget by $50, so nothing there. Services provided to other governments. So this is where you get your payments from the municipality for services you provide to them. So sidewalk repairs and maintenance, garbage services, sewer services. So you're $160,000 over your budget, and almost double what you were last year. But the biggest contributor there is the municipality pays for 35% of the capital projects related to the sewer system, and there was a lot of work this year, particularly with the Mount Street project. So that's what's driving the change. And you don't budget for their capital contributions because what they pay for depends on what you complete in the year. So that is why your budget to actual is so far off, because there's just no budget for that. So sales of service, no real changes from last year. Other revenue from own sources, again, very similar. You budgeted 158, you came in at 160. You're down $50,000 year over year. There were just some extra miscellaneous items last year. Have your unconditional transfers from other governments. So this is basically where you get your equalization payment, so your municipal financial capacity grant and your town foundation grant. So you budgeted 416, came in at 470. So again, this is very bang on. You know what the province is going to give you for those grants, and the increase year over year is just that the funding there. You do have your conditional transfers from other governments. This is up this year, $220,000, and the biggest driver in here is the Sustainable Services Growth Fund. So that's some provincial funding that came out in 2023. You did spend some of the money last year, and the remainder, $298,000, was brought into income this year to go towards the Mount Street project. So that is the big driver in change year over year. And then they have some conditional transfers from other governments. The municipality kicks in some money for the Tourist Bureau. So that is your major items at the top. And then we looked at our meter rates. So metered rates are up $86,000. Your $26,000 increased on your budget. So your water rates did go up $2.20, and your sewer rates did go up as well. So we do have just increased rates. Everything else in there is very similar. So interest is not budgeted for because that's interest out of your reserves. So there's no budget there, but again, very similar year over year in terms of balance. Canada Community Building Fund, otherwise known as gas tax. So you don't defer any of your gas tax. Whatever you get paid in a given year is fully taken into revenue. Then we have grants for capital projects. So this kind of swings wildly every year depending on what you're able to get or what's going on. So this year there was $1.65 million for the Mount Street project from the Investing in Canadian Infrastructure program. And there was also $115,000 towards the splash pad. In terms of last year, you're $565,000. There was $360,000 towards the splash pad, $60,000 in accessibility grants, and $66,000 from the ISIP program for initial costs on the Mount Street project. So that is the major items that make up your revenue. And in terms of expenditures, you came in at $6.452 million, so you're up $250,000 year over year, and you're $80,000 over your budget. So under general government services, no significant changes here. Came in at $1,029,000. Last year you were $960,000, so you're up $70,000, basically year over year and over your budget. So no significant changes here. Administrative costs are up. You had the grant coordinator position this year, as well as just the general cost of living increases and wage scale movements throughout the year. Then the unusual item, not unusual, you do have a defined benefit pension plan for the former clerk. So every year there is a full valuation on that pension every 3 years, and then every year there's an extrapolation done. So this year, when the extrapolation was done at March 31st, the pension liability had grown, and you had a $62,000 expense to adjust your liability, whereas last year you had a $1,700 recovery. So that just fully depends on how the actuaries determine the value of the pension in a given year. So overall, very consistent. Protective services, $1.749 million budget, $1.726 actual, so you're only $20,000 under your budget. The only real movement here is your RCMP costs are up $60,000 year over year, so that's very in line with your budget. Correctional services, you'll note there is no cost this year. Correctional services and housing authority deficit, you're no longer required to fund with the new agreement with the province. So in 2025, you'll see no costs towards correctional services or the deficit of the housing authority. In terms of fire protection, those are the only other lines that have any kind of variance really in them. And it's basically just repairs and maintenance costs on the equipment and building that are varying year over year. So again, very consistent operations. Transportation services, $1,045,000 on the budget, $1,092,000 for actual, and $1,074,000 last year. So again, no real changes year over year. In terms of road and transport for roads and streets, you are up $80,000 year over year. Basically, there was $50,000 more spent on salt this year than there was last year. If you recall, it's a very cold, long, icy winter, so a lot more salt consumption, and there was $20,000 spent on road maintenance. So that's what's driving the change there. There was also a gain on disposal of assets. One of the tractors was sold, and you made $27,000 on that sale. So that was the changes there. Environmental health services, $1,044,000 on the budget, $1,045,000 on the actual, and $1,010,000 last year. No significant changes there year over year in any category. Can't strike more accurate than that, really. Public health services, this is where you'll see the change. So last year was $237,000, and this year it's only $14,000. So you'll note that last year you had to contribute $210,000 to the deficit of the housing authority. So then this year there's nothing. Then you have some doctor recruitment, and there was also a gain on disposal of assets here. There was the mobile home and the piece of land that was sold, and you made $16,000 profit on that. So that's what we have there. So you do have if we backed out the gain on disposal of the mobile home, your expenses and budget would be very much in line. That's the only thing that's throwing off that variance. Environmental development services, budgeted 181, came in at 217. Again, everything very similar year over year. In terms of last year, you had a recovery of $7,000. So in the prior year, this is where the piece of land out by the Tourist Bureau was subdivided off and sold. So there was a $218,000 gain proceed on selling that. So if we backed that out, your costs year over year would be very similar. So it'd be about $210,000 of expenses last year against 217 this year. So that's what's throwing that off. Recreation and culture, again, budgeted 620, came in at 633. You're up $90,000 year over year. So what's moving here is amortization expense. So that's when you have long-lived assets, you have to recognize an expense throughout their life. And so last year is when the splash pad was complete. So we saw a $40,000 increase in amortization expense. And then also the dark budget, those costs increased $30,000 year over year. Then in terms of your source of supply, power and pumping, water treatment administration, those are all very similar year over year, only slight variances. So that's the summary of your expenditures. So we sum that all up. So you budgeted for a surplus of $1.965 million, and you came in at $2.423 million. Last year, your surplus was only $360,000, so that's a $2.1 million increase year over year. Started out the year with a $17.19 million surplus, and you closed out at $19.62. So I will qualify that, and you say, well, what did we do to go from a $360,000 surplus last year to a $2.4 million surplus this year? So when you do capital projects, all the revenue for those projects comes in as income immediately, but the cost associated with them only gets recognized over time. So we have to factor in that you have $1.9 million of revenue this year that is for capital expenditures. So just between those categories, that's where $1.4 million of it came from. So just bear that in mind when you're looking at these, or when somebody asks you what's going on this year, that where's the $2.4 million? Well, you send them up to Pizza Delight and say, take a drive down the road, because that's where it is. So then we'll go over to the statement of financial position, otherwise known as your balance sheet. So this year we have financial assets of $4.95 million. That's down $180,000 year over year. Cash is very similar. It went down $800,000, and that's due, obviously, you had large expenditures on capital projects. Then accounts receivable is up $400,000, but a big piece of that is the final payment on the investment in Canadian infrastructure program. The final installment from them is receivable for $171,000. Your taxes receivable did go up $75,000, but your levy did also substantially increase year over year. So just in terms of your house, they want you to have less than 10% of your levy receivable at year end, and you are under that. So your collections relative to your levy are still well within the provincial parameters. You also have $100,000 receivable from the Water Commission for sewer and water rates. There's $155,000 receivable from the municipality. So as I mentioned earlier, that was the big contribution for the sewer capital projects. And then dark, you loaned them $50,000 this year to go towards the purchase of the Zamboni, 5 years, 0%. So that's also in there. That's kind of what's driving the change year over year. Then our liabilities side, so we have tax sale surplus. So basically, the few times that you guys sell something at tax sale, in the event that it sells for more than what the individual owes you, you have tax sale surplus. So you hold that money for 20 years, and in the event that the individual does not come to collect the excess, you're allowed to take it into revenue at that time. So this just represents the liability of money you're holding, waiting on your 20-year time limit. It's not a very frequent activity for you guys. Of that $61,000, that only represents 3 properties sold over the last 18 years. So it's not, you don't really sell anything too often that people don't collect on. Payables and accruals, $1.156 million versus $838,000 last year. So you're off about $300,000. The biggest piece in there basically is your trade payables, $724,000. So of that is a $480,000 bill from Dexter's, again towards the Mount Street project. And then also you have $330,000 in payroll liabilities. So your sick leave liability, your vacation payable, your wage accruals, anything like that. So that's the bulk of what those payables are, and the majority of the fluctuation is just timing and trade payable. So again, that $480,000 from Dexter's. Customer deposits. So some of your residents do deem it worthy of giving you guys money in advance of services. So that's held there as owed back to them. We have the accrued pension fund liability. So as I mentioned before, your pension valuator comes along every year and does an extrapolation on where the pension sits. And so this year they determined that it was in a liability position of $100,000. So the clerk is up into his 90s, and at such time as when he does pass, if there's the fund will be reevaluated, and if there is a surplus funds will come back to you. And we would note that the actuaries are quite conservative in their calculations, so we're not really expecting that you'll owe the fund $100,000, but this is just what they do. Then we have deferred revenue this year, $1.7 million. So of that, we have $1.1 million for the grid program towards Thomas Road. Then we also have $365,000 for the municipal capital grant program. That funding is going to be used towards the generators. So that's the biggest pieces of what's in deferred revenue this year. Last year, the $720,000. So that there was still that $365,000 for the generators. And there was also the $300,000 that I talked about for the Sustainable Services Growth Fund. So those are the two big items last year. Asset retirement obligations. So that was for those of you that are new, that was a standard that came in 2023 that everyone was so happy to deal with. Basically, the standard came in and said if you had an asset that had a retirement obligation with it, that had to be quantified and set up as a liability. So the simple example is wind turbines. Windmill goes up, it has a finite life, it has to come down. So basically what you had to do, you don't have windmills, but it's just my example. Windmill goes up, 20 years down the road, it has to be torn down. What would that cost today? Calculated out to the future value and then brought back, discounted down today. So for you guys, it's the decommissioning of the water commission wells and the transfer station. Those are your two asset retirement obligations. And so then every year we record what's called accretion expense, and that just increases the liability. Idea there being that the idea was that if you had assets that needed to have a future cost, this is a way to somewhat try and represent that. So this liability will grow until it gets to its future value. So that's all that is. That's purely a paper cost. And then we have long-term debt of $1.596 million. So you're up $50,000 there. So one debenture was paid off this year, and then one new one was issued. So that gives us net financial assets of $184,000. So that's down $1.6 million year over year. And then we have our non-financial assets. So we have our general capital and our water capital. We have a little bit of prepaid expenses and then some inventory. So in terms of capital additions, this was a very large year for capital projects for the town and the Water Commission. So the town had $3.9 million of additions, so $2.5 million towards Mount Street, $500,000 for the Racket Road culvert, $100,000 for a new tractor, $65,000 for the fire department utility pickup truck, $50,000 for the fire department's compressor, and then $150,000 towards the splash park. That's offset with $773,000 of depreciation expense. And then from the Water Commission side, there's $1.2 million of additions, $1.1 million being towards Mount Street. That was obviously Mount Street was a big $3.6 million project, and that's offset by $143,000 of amortization. So when we look at this, and you say, well, our net financial assets went down significantly, but this is all about the placement of where your capital assets go. So as we discussed, you did take on some new borrowing, but not very much. So your $5 million in capital projects was funded from grant revenue and then your reserves. So whenever there is a big expenditure on capital, you're going to see your net financial assets go down. Anytime you borrow money for projects, you're going to see that go down as well. So you guys have funded most of your projects out of cash and grants. So basically that means you can interpret that as your ratepayers of today have funded your capital projects. If you borrow money for your capital, that's for ratepayers of the future are going to fund that. So still in a positive position, so that's good. But you have to take that all in context. If you were to look at a much larger municipal unit, say HRM or CBRM, it would not be uncommon for them to have negative net financial assets or a net deficit because of the borrowing for capital and whatnot. So it's just has to be taken in context of everything that's going on. So we add that all up, and that's where you get your accumulated surplus of 19.62 million. So again, if somebody says, "Where's the $20 million?" Well, you can see almost all of it is in infrastructure, roads, streets, sewers, whatever you guys are using to provide your services. There's no magic bag of money lying around. That's just kind of where everything is. So basically, pages 6 through 24 are just going to be some other statements that we won't go over, and then your notes. They just provide some more detail to support the information that's in the financial statements. So that's my streamlined version of the financial report. Is there any questions or comments on that?
Aaron, just, and I don't understand how it works. The town has a line of credit for $650,000.
Mm-hmm.
What we never use.
Correct.
Would there be any scenario that you could see that we would use that?
I would think for you guys to dip into a credit line rather than using an MFC debenture or Department of Finance and Treasury, I would say I would kind of defer that to Tom and Matt. But you would think if you guys got really cash strapped, you'd dip into that to cover payroll or very short-term expenses. Or if you were doing a capital project and there was a timing between, because finance and treasury only does debentures at certain times in the year. So if you got a big bill from somebody and the debenture didn't line up, you could maybe see it then. And that is disclosed in the statements. We do outline that there is a debenture, there is a credit line, but it's not used. So that is disclosed in the notes. Yeah.
Even if we did run into that scenario to need bridge financing, Finance and Treasury does offer bridge financing. We'd have to look at the rate on the credit line versus what they would offer us. And probably what they would offer us would be better than the credit line. But we're fortunate that we're not having to run that lean and have to dip into that.
So it doesn't cost us anything just for it to be.
No.
All right, any other questions? If not, I would ask for a motion for approval of the financial statements.
Make that motion.
Motion by Deputy Mayor, seconder.
I'll second that.
Councilor McCormick. If there's no other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Aaron.
All right. Thank you all very much. I'll just say, since you're all here, very good staff of the town. We have a good working relationship. Audit moves very, very smoothly. Taff, Matthew, Tom, everyone does an excellent job. I know it's a bit of a nuisance when I show up and be like, start digging all this stuff out and asking all these questions, but it does roll along very well. So our thanks to your staff for making it such a smooth process.
All right, so we also need a motion to appoint the auditors for next coming year, fiscal year.
I'll move that we appoint Don Grant Thornton as our auditors for our next fiscal year.
Second.
Second.
Somebody asked for a foot. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, September 2nd. No errors in that, those minutes. Anyone proceed? If not, we will approve as presented. And business arising. Thanks, Matt, for coming in.
No problem. Thank you.
And we'll move into business arising. Notice of variance 115 King Street.
Yes, there was a variance that was granted by the development officer for 115 King Street. The time for appeal is lapsed, and the development permit for the development on that property has been issued. So,
Okay.
good to go.
Just FYI. On the minutes. Thanks, Tom.
keep getting shorter and a lot busier. And so, establishing a REMO that includes the municipality of the District of Clare. So the three COs have drafted an intermunicipal agreement that requires approval from all three municipal units in Digby County. The draft agreement has been placed on the council agenda for council consideration. This will be in camera, and the REMO bylaw is being reviewed and amendments are being drafted for council consideration pending the approval of the intermunicipal agreement. Municipal Modernization Act. The legislation was introduced on September 25th to provide new tools to support development, reduce taxes when natural disasters destroy homes, and modernize municipal elections. The Municipal Affairs Minister John Moore stated, "We work closely with our municipal partners to support development and help their communities grow. These changes reflect that collaboration and help to ensure that municipal government systems are modern, responsive, and more aligned to help municipalities support their residents' needs." The Municipal Modernization Act includes amendments to 6 pieces of existing legislation, providing new powers for municipalities to reduce taxes when homes are destroyed by natural disasters, and the ability to accept electronic payments at tax sales. Updates to the Municipal Election Act allows returning officers to vote, providing more options beyond newspapers for election notices, and providing language to improve the protection and privacy of voters. And more tools to support housing, planning, and infrastructure development in Halifax Regional Municipality, and clarifying some details about special planning areas. The proposed amendments will also provide the minister with the authority to designate a child care facility area as needed, remove planning barriers, and speed up development of critical child care spaces. Also included in the new legislation, the Transportation Corridor Control Act, which will allow the province to protect priority transportation corridors to be proactively designating land for these projects. The act will help prioritize the need of major transportation projects and streamline coordination among government departments, landowners, municipalities, developers, and utilities. Proposed changes reflect feedback received from Nova Scotia's 49 municipalities through the NSFM. The legislation amends the Municipal Government Act, the Halifax Regional Municipal Charter, Municipal Elections Act, Halifax Regional Water Commission Act, Municipal Grants Act, and the Housing in the Halifax Regional Municipality Act. The bill, as presented, can be found on the Nova Scotia Legislature website. CMHC Housing Accelerator Fund. Staff has officially submitted a request for an extension of the dates for the program. The request is being reviewed by CMHC and will forward a decision to the town. Staff will prepare a job description for the coordinator for this program, which will be a term position and is eligible to be funded with the funding received from the CMHC Housing Accelerator Fund. Policy development. Staff and I have been working on draft policies and policy amendments as per council's direction, which include the deputy mayor's policy, communication policies, and social media policy. Postal strike. The sudden postal strike caught us by surprise. However, staff is working on a mitigation strategy so that tax and water bills are received and bills can get paid. The town hall has been busy with residents picking up the tax bills.
Any questions for CAO? Yes.
Sure.
Councilor McCormick?
I was just wondering if there's anything specific in the conversation that you had about the Macintosh Memorial Park, or if that's something we could talk about or we'll talk about after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? Right. Thanks, Tom. We'll move into the mayor's report. September 9th, Tom and I had a Zoom meeting with the Minister of Justice and the Department over the RCMP with a new study that they just put out. The province is looking to move to a provincial force, actually getting rid of and it will be the RCMP. So we'll see a lot of town forces in smaller communities change to the RCMP. If they're happy with that, which they're not right now. Tom and I both expressed the satisfaction we have with our staff sergeant and his team, and the communication is flowing very good back and forth between the RCMP and Tom and myself. September 10th, we had a housing meeting, DB Housing Coalition. Nancy brought us up to date with the progress, and at this time we will continue to meet and possibly move this project along a little bit. September 11th, transit meeting, we had a Zoom call with the Dalhousie University to discuss our feasibility study for urban town transit. It went very well. Councillor Foote will be sending information to Dal over the next week, and then we'll wait for a proposal and move forward from there. Attended the Fishers Memorial on the 21st of September. Also attended the executive committee meeting, waste check, committee of the whole, transit committee, and water commission on top of that. I did have some report here, I updated it. One thing with the water commission, it's not in this report, is that we're switching to new meters now, because our old water meters are passe, we can't get parts for them anymore, so residents notice a little bit of increase in their water bill. It's because these ones are more accurate. So, yeah, I know. So, we'll be replacing the new meters as the ones break down. So, we're not ordering them and doing them all, but we're going to switch them out. So, if you hear any feedback, it could be because of a new meter. Other than that, any questions? Makes you happy, doesn't it? All right, we'll move on to the reports of the committee, the bylaw policy report. It's in your package. And I believe I'm looking for some motions there.
I'll make the motion that the chief administrative officer's succession plan as presented be adopted.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
Second that. Any questions on that? Questions? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Planning advisory report. Councilor McCormick?
Sure. During our planning advisory committee meeting, we've reviewed our policy sections IM5 to IM9. There was some pretty in-depth discussion regarding that. I think we actually got a little bit further than that, but I believe we completed the industrial section. And then the main topic of conversation was the fact that our commercial engagement session is going to be happening this month on October the 23rd. So it'll be October the 23rd at 6 o'clock, and I believe that's going to be in the same location as last time, which was the Digby Station. So councillors will be expected to be there, and actually the entirety of the committee had agreed to be there, and they'll help to run the session along with Chris Millier from Foresight Planning Group.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions? We're all there. And we'll move into the DBR Tourism Association Committee Report, Councilor Weir. Our first one.
Yes, it was an interesting one. Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to touch base on something before that, real quick, if I could. Just wanted to take a moment to recognize the Digby Multicultural Festival. They put an amazing job on, all the organizers and volunteers did an amazing job this year for being the first thing. It was such a great event, well attended, family friendly, and something that was really pretty cool to bring here to the community, get everybody together, I thought. Events like this showcase our diversity, the welcome spirit of Digby, and I think the council, we should maybe look at supporting that a little bit more next year. Maybe either way, if you want to look at funding, promotions, whatever we can do, but it's kind of an event that truly adds to the heart of this town. So I just want to bring that up. Thank you for that. Now to the data meeting. It was my first one. It's pretty cool, pretty interesting. It was nice to be able to share something before that. It was almost similar to tourism, anyways. At the most recent data meeting, it was reported. I'm not going to read my whole report because it's very long. Sorry, I'm just going to sum it up here a little bit, everybody. They said it was a very strong tourism year this year for whale watching, winery, local bed and breakfasts. They were extremely busy, and many visitors coming from outside of Canada, which was good. Some mentioned that they've seen the letter from to America campaign and stuff, so that was kind of neat to hear that. Looking ahead, they're looking at doing a commercial, which is pretty cool, promoting Digby on the Cotter's Country Channel. I don't know if anyone's ever watched that, but I have. It's a pretty cool channel. So that should be actually pretty close to the next few days airing. So it's going to be neat to see that. They had under special initiatives. They're preparing for that 60 days of mod here this fall, which should take place soon. A bunch of stuff on the go with that. Motion was passed to use the remaining $25,000 from the grant monies to do a 5-year strategic plan to help develop new tourism experiences like scallop shucking and wine making and like clamming packages and stuff. So really hands-on stuff, which is pretty cool to see. They noted that the printing costs were up by 46% since 2021, which is really putting a damper on trying to get some more of these books that they make. I don't know if anyone's ever seen them. They lay out all kinds of stuff that's available around their area. Social media and their websites engagements continue to grow with the marketing planning to hit some major cities this year like Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, St. John, which is that's big stuff. Joan Ross from the municipality of Digby was offered to help strengthen the data bylaws and policies, so they've been working on that. Next meeting or so. And then of course I had the last day as a new member. I just shared the town's infrastructure improvements, and including like new sidewalks and the road paving, as I think these projects not only improve safety, but they also enhance the visitor experience. I also noted the success of the 2025 community events that drew the strong participation to the town, like Lobster Bash and Wolford Rally and stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Any questions for Councilor Weir? Councilor Glover?
Just wondering if they gave any consideration where we're a little bit later in the year to doing their 60 days of mod, maybe at the start of next year. I know it's not the 60th anniversary come the start of next year, but where the province or whatever the group is, the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia is kind of late in terms of granting approval for use of images. if there was consideration of using that as sort of a kickoff for next year's tourism season, as opposed to, well, the very tail end of this one. I don't know if they discussed that or not, just wondering if that was part of the discussion.
Thanks for that question, good question. What I took from that was, yes, it did take a while for those approvals for the art stuff. That's kind of what slowed it down to get to the fall. There was nothing mentioned of that because they have already been adding to that since we talked about it from summertime.
Okay.
So I think they have all their ducks in a row with a lot of things. I don't want to give it away. There's some pretty cool stuff they're doing, and I think they're gonna just go with it. And like I say, next year, imagine they'll probably do it again, even bigger. Sorry, it's quarterly meetings, so I can't really get back to normal on that.
That's fair. Thank you.
And they did have their banners done as well, and they got
Yes.
those in the town hall, so I think there were 20 banners on or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're moving forward.
Okay.
So. All right, correspondence, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Mayor.
just for Weir, is this just a typo, or are there banners and flags? So there's 20 new double-sided banners, but then the next line says Eric Allen of Scotia Grounder rights of use to certain waterworks for the flags. Are there flags too?
There's actually, I'm just trying to get at it. What was going on was they're doing a whole bunch of different things. I don't want to give away some of the stuff they were mentioning. How do I say this? There will be kind of flags going around a little bit on some things. I don't know if there's kind of a right thing going on and whatnot. I don't know how to say this.
Will there be a conflict between that?
No, I don't, nothing between that at all. No, their double-sided banners is the big one, that's what you're talking about. That's definitely the biggest thing, yeah, that the mayor just mentioned.
Sure, any other questions for Councilor Weir? No. If not, we'll move on to correspondence. ATV road trail request. That's in your package. Discussion?
Sure. Since we have some representatives from the ATV Association here, if any of them want to have a seat up front, if you'd like to, or you can answer stuff from back there. I was just wondering, you guys have in there that you'd like to have a route. Do you guys have a proposed, route to connect the existing trails with Shore Road?
So if you like, you can just sit there, Keith.
Yeah.
Keith's the president, and let
Oh,
us know
sorry,
his
no.
name, so we'll, yeah. if you just-
Yeah, so my name's Keith Weigel, I'm the president of the ATV Club, Digby ATV Club. Right now, what we're looking at is a two-phase project. Ultimately, we want to connect St. John and New Brunswick to Digby. So the first part of that project is to get approval for what's owned in town, which would be the town limit on Shore Road to the railhead, or the trailhead on Victoria Street. So the rail bed. So once that's approved, we can go to the province and get the approval for the rest, but they won't even consider it until we have an actual connection to a trailhead. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Yeah, I'd say, I guess more specific, I would assume it would probably be, if you're traveling down Victoria, it would be the left-hand side of the road that you would connect down to Shore Road. The non-sidewalk side of the road.
You would travel with direction of traffic.
Okay, so right on the road with traffic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was off the road entirely down the side or.
Yeah,
right with traffic.
what the rules are is if there's enough room for all four tires to be off the pavement, then that's where you're supposed to be. If not, then you're supposed to be fully on the pavement, not straddling half and half.
Okay, so going down, it would be on the pavement, probably coming back up, it's gonna be off the pavement.
Yeah, more than likely.
Any other questions while he's in the hot seat? Just a Councilor Foot?
Yeah, do you get you have an idea of what it would cost to travel across the ferry with an ATV?
David, maybe you know?
I haven't traveled from New Brunswick, but Nova Scotia to Newfoundland, it's the cost of a motorcycle. So it's $25, $30.
Yeah, it's quite low. I know for sure it's under $60, but I think
Very
it's
reasonable.
quite a bit less than that. It's about half of what it would be for a full-size vehicle.
Any comments, no?
I guess
we would have to amend the bylaw, our bylaw number one. There's a little bit of research and work that would have to be done before we can, council can jump into this. That road, depends on who you talk to, who owns it.
Depends on the maintenance.
Yeah, and
You know, when anything's wrong, it belongs to the town. When everything's right, it belongs to the province.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to get that clarified, number one, right? We have to clarify whether we have the right to amend our bylaw to include that is same as with what we've done with First Avenue here. Right? That's the thing. And we can only go to the town limits, of course, which is just past the BIC out there.
Yeah.
But that's, and then, after that, we have, if the province hasn't got any issue with it, if we're good, well, then, you know, we'd have to, council would have to be able to look at it, but at this point, I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
As to whether, the province would, consider it 100% town or not, because it is a cost shared or shared street, because it is the Highway 303.
Yeah.
Right, so.
And we knew that coming in, and we figured this is the best way to kind of kickstart that to get answers, right?
Yeah.
Because it didn't seem like anybody we talked to had a 100% sure answer who's responsible for issuing that kind of authority or permission.
All I'm saying is that we would have to, council would have to direct staff to look into it and find all the ins and outs, so. Whether we can do it or not, and then basically, if it's can be done, then basically, then it will be council's decision on whether they wanted to do it, and that from there.
Yeah.
Very first thing is investigating what that means.
Next on, Councilor Weir.
Thank you, Chair. Am I able to make a motion to direct staff to look into this, an investigation to see what we need to do for our side?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Seconder?
Second.
Any questions? Not now. Okay, so, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So stay tuned, you know how you deal with the province, it could be a while, so maybe by next spring, we'll have an answer. No, you won't be I'm not kidding you, it's probably will be next spring.
Oh, I know.
So, but thank you for attending tonight.
Well, actually, just before he goes, can I ask a question?
Yep.
Have you spoken to folks in other areas that might have some supporting information we can use with the province to state like the difference that it can make to small businesses, but especially overnight stays and restaurants,
I think Yarmouth would be a good example for that. When they opened up Main Street, they seen a huge increase in use and restaurants and accommodations, and they also seen a huge increase in speeding by ATVs, right? Because nobody's trying to burn through it and without getting caught. So the noise, pollution, and all that went way down. Complaints went way down.
Thank you.
Do you have anything, David, that you'd like to add?
Well, I think the goal is to tap into that tourism money that's in New Brunswick. I've traveled to Newfoundland on my side-by-side. It's a huge business. We have an equal opportunity here to attract like-minded people from New Brunswick. And I think that's really what's driving our ambition to connect the ferry to the rest of the trail system.
Yeah, we're in a unique situation in Digby because we connect to another province like Cape Breton, right? So there's only two entrances on ferry and you get the land entrance, which you can't get through anyway. But the province, I know, is big into pushing ATV routes. They've opened up a lot of new road trails. It's something they really want to see increase, ATV and tourism. And it's a growing sport and there's a lot of money there. I mean, people are buying $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 ATVs now. They have money to spend and they want to use them. They want to take them out, right?
All right, very well. Thanks so much.
All right.
This next one.
links to, to the new business that are proposed. Okay.
All right, moving ahead, letter from the Digby Area Tourism Association. That's in your package as well. And let's open the discussion. Anyone have any, who wants to start? Councilor McCormick.
I guess I'd start with a question for the CAO. I know when we had gone over the VIC proposal before, you sort of had a soft deadline on when we need to make a decision by. Could you maybe refresh my memory and the rest of council's as to when you said we would need to make a decision in terms of what we're doing with the VIC?
This meeting.
This meeting, all right, perfect. Well, then I will probably, well, my thought was going to be that there seems like a relatively ambitious in spots suggestion for what we could do, and it's kind of moving a little bit in the opposite direction of where we are in terms of spending money with respect to a visitor information center and, you know, the associated experience. But if we had had the time, I would have suggested maybe we go to DATA and ask them if they have the funding partners and the funds lined up to be able to do such a thing. Because I don't think it's feasible at this point in time for the town to take on that extra cost to run 2 VICs in the town of Digby. So, I mean, I love the ambition, but not the idea that we would have tens of thousands of additional dollars in costs to make that happen. And then we'd also be running 2 different buildings and having the cost of it. So,
Tom.
Good. Could I ask Councilor Weir whether this was talked about at the last data meeting? This letter?
There was no talk on that. Actually, I mentioned that it might be moving, and they all gasped. And I was like, oh, well, maybe they didn't watch your YouTube video, because they didn't understand what I was talking about. I said we were thinking of it, that's...
Yeah. No, but I mean, as far as this letter that came to council.
No, that's...
Under the chair's signature, was a discussion from within their board meeting with this direction.
Not the one I was...
Or is this just the chair throwing this out on her own?
Nothing was discussed like this at the meeting I was at. I was only at one though, but nothing.
Yeah, well, this is a result of the meeting, and then finding out and accusing us of not communicating that we were gonna move, and there was nothing to communicate until council made the decision. When council made the decision, it was gonna be communicated what council's decision was, and also that council, the thing is, their lease on that building expires December of this year, right? So their lease at that time, we're not gonna be starting that until May. So for 6 months practically that they have to come up with an alternative plan. I think this my personal feeling is that this is trying to sabotage the efforts of trying to keep a VIC open in Digby, right? Because the only alternative that I can see is either do what we want, what is being proposed, or we close it down altogether. And that's why I need the decision to be fair to the staff. They need to know what's going to be going on, because you can't let them in limbo. They're going to be laid off in 2 weeks, and we have to tell them so that over the winter they can find another job, quite frankly, if we're not gonna continue. It's not fair.
No, definitely not fair. The letter also came to myself and council, not, wasn't sent out to staff or CAO either, so I don't know why it didn't come to everybody, so.
Well, it says it did, but it doesn't.
No, no. Councilor Foot? Next.
If I could ask our CAO, how long have they been leasing the current location over here?
This was the second summer.
This is the second summer. And I see a lot of big plans here, but in those 2 years, I haven't seen much actual, carrying through with any of their previous plans that they had promised.
No.
So for us to stop our current planning on the basis of a letter with more plans might leave us holding the bag later on. So I am concerned about that because they've had 2 years where they originally, from what I remember, they had big plans for that and none of it has come to fruition. And it means that we've been having basically an empty building downtown when we could have put it to better use.
Yeah, especially when we were supposed to have the restrooms open in that building as well for the public, because they were supposed to be in there 4 or 5 days a week, so if it wasn't for the market, we wouldn't have the restrooms open either, so, I guess, and a little bit towards what Tom said with staff, the staff of the tourist bureau the last 2 years have said the numbers have been down, up there, and that when they do have the ambassador in town, they're getting 200 or 300 people here instead of out there, so, and we've discussed that at the, another meeting that, you know, we look forward to moving it back into town, so that's coming out of correspondence, and as far as communication, well, like I say, if they're gonna do a big project like this, then perhaps they should have came with a presentation a few months ago, since we did that big consultant thing all last winter, so something has to come out of that as well, so. And, I guess a little bit of the dig with the funds and stuff from the levy, if it's not enough, and things like that, so. Anyway, it sounds like it's a concern for them, but again, it's our building, and, you know, we do provide, tourist information for their members' businesses, so. That's all I have to say about that. Deputy Mayor?
I want to expand a little bit on what Councillor William McCoy said. It is none of the town's business what Data does in that building. They are our tenant. And as long as they are within the terms of the lease, they are free to do whatever they wish. But I do take exception in their letter when they refer to that building as their building. It has never been their building. It will never be their building unless they buy it from the town. They are a tenant with a lease and pay monthly rent.
Correct.
I'd like to be very clear about that, and so I don't know where they keep saying our building out. It is the property of the town of Digby.
That's right, they're a tenant.
And it sort of doesn't sit well with me when I read that in a letter, when they want our cooperation to do something with it, that they frame it in those sorts of terms. I applaud their efforts in whatever they try and do, and will try and support them as much as I could. Let's call a spade a spade. That is our property. And if we wish to use it for some other purpose when their lease is over, we shall do so. Thank you.
Any other comments on the correspondence? No? Councilor?
The other part that I see here where, you know, they're talking about unified management, the 2 buildings could be overseen by a single manager, who not only directs the IC service, but also implements new visitor experiences. I don't think they have the staff to help out with the second building. So
They have one staff.
So, and I don't believe they have in the past helped out much with the VIC on Shore Road. So once again, what's put in the letter that isn't representative of what they've actually done in the past. So I'm cautious about going down that route.
Thank you. Councilman Parks?
Okay, I wasn't gonna say this, but, the line that stood out to me was the limited levy funds that they alluded to. And I'm not gonna find the exact line item here, but I believe, in our audit that was just presented to us for the fiscal year ending on March 31st of 2025, those limited funds for last year were $87,000, and they're even higher this year, or seem to be trending in that direction. I wouldn't call that limited funding in terms of what's been available for them. And prior to some changes made by the levy committee this year, essentially all those funds were going to them. So close to the full $87,000 would have flowed through, plus out their other sources of funding. So, you know, to go back to what Councillor Foote said about they haven't had a lot that's really occurred or been, you know, used in that building, it tells me that maybe the funds that they're receiving aren't necessarily being used in the most efficient manner. And yeah, to say that $87,000 of funds that they weren't previously getting is limited, and I didn't really agree with that sentence.
So if I could ask Councillor Foote, you're the chair of the levy committee, what's the breakdown of the 100%?
Data receives 70% of all the levy funds, with 20% being for special projects, which they also get a portion of, probably the majority of the portion of that, and 10% as a reserve to try to build up our fund in case we do have a bad year or there's something special that comes along later on.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? With regards to that? No? Okay. If not, we'll move on to the next one. Southwest Nova Biosphere Association Initiative. Invitation, sorry. In your package. October 22nd. All right, any questions on that? If not, that's for your information. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say for the information of those who are here with us or anybody who's watching this afterwards, that there is some very interesting work that they've been doing in terms of healthy lake shores and what they can do to prevent erosion, and that when we essentially cut down or deforest or just strip the forest floor of all of its you know, greenery to make it look nice for a lawn or for whatever else, that there is a greatly increased you know, risk to runoff and various chemicals that can end up in the water causing things like blue-green algae. So in reading their information packet here, very, very informative. Not going to be able to make it because it's on a Wednesday, but very, very informative and well put together. So yeah, if anyone can make it, I'm sure it'll probably be an interesting and eye-opening thing to go to.
All right. Move on to new business. Code of Conduct Investigator. Turn that over to you, Tom.
Okay. So, long and short of it is that under the Code of Conduct legislation, you have to, each municipal unit has to appoint a Code of Conduct investigator. So, the AMA in Essen put out a proposal and probably a little over a year ago, asking for RFPs for people, qualified people to become Code of Conduct investigator, and they passed it on to the membership, which we are a member through staff. And, so they had probably half a dozen, people that they have, had identified or responded, and which they screened, and then they put those people as potential investigators. So basically, one in fact is our solicitor, which we cannot appoint for obvious reasons, because it'd be a conflict of interest to have our town solicitor investigate a code of conduct complaint. So, anyway, my recommendation is that council would appoint Charles Thompson as the code of conduct investigator for the town of Digby. So he is a practicing lawyer, has been for almost 30 years. His firm is, virtual, something like that.
Doodle,
Give me Doodle. And, anyway, so I reviewed all his things and I put all that in the report, most of his resume, so to speak, in that, and, what his costs will be. The district of Digby has appointed him as their investigator. I spoke with both him and I spoke with the CAO from the district of Digby as to whether he would think that it would be a conflict for him to do hours, and both said no, that they didn't feel that unless it was a code of conduct that complaint that affected both parties, right? And, so basically, our solicitor, our current solicitor, is also a solicitor for the district of Digby. That we have that same thing, they work independently, but if we wanted to sue one another, one of us has to get a different firm to represent us, right? So this would be the case in that case, but which is gonna be highly unlikely. So this individual, Charles, is, I didn't really recognize who he was at first until I called him and spoke with him on the phone and that, and I quickly realized that I had worked with him before, and then that was on the King's Transit file. He was representing King's Transit, or the group, actually the group, the CA committee. And so, his advice in leadership through the agreement process was probably second to none. But anyway, we need one. The costs are for the setup fee is $25. The investigation is, the hourly rate is $275, and the report writing is $275 an hour, and the per diem rate is $1,500 for each. So, I consider this as like an insurance policy. It's a necessary evil to have, but hopefully we don't have to use it. But if we do, we need to have an investigator, because if we do have a complaint, that complaint goes directly to that investigator, does not come to the CAO, it does not come to the mayor or to council. Council is fully briefed by the investigator as things progress. The investigator can say, no, this is not warranted, this complaint is not warranted, he'll advise council of the same, right? Or he'll, if he finds that it is warranted and he comes out with things, and he'll make a recommendation to council as to what, I was gonna say punishment, but to what disciplinary action, I guess, would be required or recommended. And then that's when council would have to make a decision on his recommendations.
All right. Yes, Deputy Mayor?
Is there,
Thanks.
it's 1500 per diem, it's kind of steep, but they do have offices in quite a few places. Is there a possibility of using Zoom or electronic communications at some point instead of?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, when he was working on King's Transit file or the CAO committee for, most of it was Zoom. So he met, and, but I believe that that's all inclusive, like there's no extras for the VA, those type of things, it's all inclusive, so, like I said, sounds expensive, but, if we need it, we need it, if we don't, we're not spending any money, and to my knowledge, there is no retainer fee, right? It's just gonna be as required.
But you gotta have your name on his client list
Yeah.
first before you can.
All right, any other questions? Any other questions? If not, take a motion to have Charles Thompson as our investigator.
I'd make that motion to send to council to accept Charles Thompson as our investigator.
Okay, so that would go through tonight, this is council, so.
Yes,
this is go
I
through.
started with that.
Got a seconder?
Seconded.
So, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Pre-approved, the venture. Next up.
Do you want the whole thing read in? I know we've been doing that for
No,
lot of
you can
these.
just read the, whereas, hold on, where are we at here? Yeah, I got it here, just, see, therefore be it resolved.
Okay. All right, I will move the resolution for pre-approval of debenture issuance subject to interest rate. Whereas class 66, whereas class 91-1A, whereas class 91-1B, and whereas class 91-1-2, and whereas resolution of council of Borough was pre-approved by the municipal council on September 2nd, 2025. Be it therefore resolved that under the authority of section 91 of the Municipal Government Act, the town of Digby borrow by the issue and sale of debenture a sum or sums not exceeding $1,515,000 for a period not to exceed 20 years, subject to the approval of the minister. That the sum be borrowed by the issue and sale of debentures of the town of Digby in the amount that the mayor or warden and clerk or the person designated by the council deems proper, provided the average interest rate of the debenture does not exceed the rate of 7%, that the debenture be arranged with the province of Nova Scotia with interest to be paid semi-annually and principal payments made annually, that this resolution remains in force for a period not exceeding 12 months from the passing of this resolution.
Any questions? Have a seconder? Second. Deputy Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Those in favor?
Motion carried. Alright, trying to get this stuff, I don't need my computer for some reason. Alright, moving on to M4. I believe we wanted this on the agenda.
M3.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Item 3, VIC proposal. All right, so Thomas, you want to go through that with us?
Okay, so the recommendation is that council approve the relocation of the Digby Visitor Information Center from Shore Road to 110 Montague Road, effective for the 2026 tourism season, and authorize staff to implement a revised operational model with reduced staffing and increased use of self-serve information resources, resulting in an estimated annual savings of $37,290. So, basically, the purpose is to seek council's approval to relocate the Visitor Information Center from its current location on Shore Road to 110 Montague Road, with the objective of reducing staff and operational costs while maintaining an effective tourism information service. So, as part of the background, I think it's been 3 years that we've been at Shore Road. And it's been a challenge every year. I would say that this year it was the first year that staff actually tried to do a little bit more with the building and had some exhibits and stuff in the back room as a draw and to draw people in. But you don't get the foot traffic that you used to get down here. We at the town hall, we still get, I would say we probably get 5 to 10 visitors per day that come in looking for the Tourist Information Center. And, you know, our staff here tries to help them as best we could, tell them where it is, but some of them are on foot, and they say, well, we can't walk way up there, and, you know, things like that. So having it back in the sort of the downtown core is better. The VIC counselors, basically, they feel very strongly that it's better suited back where it was before, as opposed to being up there. There was some advantages to being up there, more parking and different things, but the thing is, it is more isolated for walking and traffic. All you're going to get is drive-by traffic, and so anyway, the thing is that you know, I've done a comparison, and you know, so just in comparison, the current location at Shore Road for building maintenance, based on this last year, building maintenance was $9,500, and the proposed location would be $5,000. So there's a savings, estimated savings of $4,500. Utilities, they're $4,000, and that's $2,219 at Montague Road. $1,781 more estimated savings. Insurance is pretty much neutral. Staff wages and benefits, there it's $79,486, and the proposed location would be $48,477. That's a $31,000 savings. And basically, the reason for that is that you can reduce staff and reduce hours of operation as well. So, and then you don't need. So the idea was to have 2 full-time staff work 5 days a week. And figure out what 2 days the VIC would be closed, instead of running it as a 7-day operation. Because there are days that are not as busy as other days, and staff can help figure that out. So the total annual savings would be 37,290. That's estimated. And as far as the revenue coming in, we would still be getting from the province and the municipality $11,500, irregardless of where it. So the net cost is $85,000 for the shore road compared to $48,000 for the Montague road. So, like I said, the only option, we want to try to offer visitor information services. This is the best option. Otherwise, we just close it down altogether. And I'm sure that when if council made that decision and that announcement was made, we'd be getting more than one letter from the tourism industry and the businesses within town concerned about that decision. So, I guess at least this is a step down trying to, and if we can, make it sustainable, because it was hidden down a non-sustainable path, right, as it was.
Just compromise.
And it's better service as well, so, I mean, money's the money, but the overall thing is to get the tourists the information, right, so. All right, so we have discussed that at the committee of the whole meeting to bring here. Anyone want to make that motion to relocate the VIC back to Montague?
I'll move that council approve the relocation of the Digby Visitor Information Center from Shore Road to 110 Montague Road, effective for the 2026 tourism season, and authorize staff to implement a revised operational model with reduced staffing hours and increased use of self-service information resources, resulting in an estimated annual saving of $37,290.
Seconder? Second. Any other questions before the question? Questions, concerns? Yes?
I'll just say that normally I'm all in favor of, government sort of assisting and being there to be part of the promotion of service. But in this case, when looking at some of the other, tourism towns, so to speak, that exist within Nova Scotia, there's some that don't have a VIC at all. So we're still going to be offering a service, and we have to make sure that we're working with business going forward, and that data is part of it as well, to see what we can do in terms of a combined approach to make sure that it's not just the town taking on the burden of promoting what's going on here, and that they're efficient in the use of their funds for how they can help promote the area. Because a lot of times it's people want directions as much as they want, anything else, but we can still provide that to them. And if data does want to be involved with everything that's going on Shore Road, if we're going to be closed potentially 2 days a week, then maybe that's where their employee that they have can be here, or that other businesses can be here and be part of the process to maybe keep us open all 7 days, so that we can be there for the tourists that are in town.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilor? Thank you, Chair. Is there any little bit of information on what we might do with a vacant building? So we were looking at getting those assessed, correct, Tom?
Right, so.
Yeah, we're getting all the town properties appraised. So that's where we're at right now, is getting buildings that we have appraised, so we can move forward in some decision with property, either selling them or getting some housing in them. So, once we have that list, we'll move forward with that. Any other questions? If not, all in favor of the, you have something? So-
No.
Okay, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to M4. Councilor Weir wanted this on the agenda.
Thank you so much for adding that to the agenda. I'd just like to follow up on the earlier request on that regarding tax rate communications. I just, when I looked through the town's public channels, I couldn't find a clear explanation for the residents that the tax rate had changed or that it had changed anywhere. The only place I did see it was in the rate section, which is great, on the website, where the numbers were updated, which, you know, is the norm. I'm still new here, I don't really know too much about it. It's my first tax thing, okay? So, for me, I just believe it would be beneficial to us to adopt the practice that many other municipalities are using right now. And it's simple, I did just email it to you guys, if you take a peek at it, it's called a council highlight recap. So after a meeting like this, for example, like the municipality of Digby, they do clear highlights on their media pages like Facebook, etc. It's just easy to read, it summarizes a few motions and decisions, doesn't have to be a big page. They're just easy to read without requiring them to search through all the websites and try to find the minutes and YouTube, etc. We could have this as a dedicated section as well if we want to on our website, which is titled whatever you want, council highlights, whatever council feels. I just believe, like, in adopting this approach that we would improve transparency, strengthen public engagement, and align directly with the communication policy currently being looked at right now. Since it's simple, clear, short, and timely way of sharing information that's already been approved and out to the public. I just thank you guys for listening to me and maybe taking this into consideration. Thank you.
So I guess a couple of comments from myself is that we did start more of a communication process this year with the pre-budget trade show that we had at the fire hall, which explained what we pay for different services and everything, which was, you know, it wasn't greatly attended, but I think in moving forward it will be. Being here for 26 years, we've always posted our rates on the website as well as our meetings, so our budget meetings were open meetings, they could have come to all the budget meetings as well. I think the biggest communication that we need to do is have people come. Our meetings are the first Monday and the third Monday, which we discuss most of this stuff. And like I say, the staff do put it on the website. We also are on Eastlink now, so there's our broadcast is on Eastlink where people can view the meetings. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, to staff is that it's hard to put a lot of this stuff on the website and the report because it's not approved yet. So everything we discussed tonight is just, you know, it takes time to approve those minutes to the next time to approve everything. So I don't know how we would do any more than that with those staff notifications as well. Any other, yes?
Yeah, I guess I'd wonder if we could, possibly if Tom wants to reach out to the CAO from the municipality and see what process they went through to sort of decide what to put on their little, their one-pagers essentially that they put out. Because they'd probably be in the same situation as us. Most minutes aren't going to be approved until the next minute, or until the next meeting, sorry. But they are putting out these little summaries of some of the things that they've either voted on or discussed at the meeting. They're not too in depth, but something like that, may be beneficial in terms of spurring folks to either be at our meetings and be present at them, but also give those little tidbits of information so that when, you know, folks are wondering what we spend our money on or where we get our money from, that they can go in and see that we had a resolution to borrow $1.5 million to help cover, you know, costs of things. But I would say best, you know, course of action would probably have Tom, you know, discuss that with his cohort at the municipality and see if it's feasible for us to do something like that.
Yeah.
If of course council is in agreement with such a thing.
I guess another thing too is the newsletter we have too, so we've been doing the newsletter quite consistently. I mean, it's pretty hard to do any more than what we have. And I'm not saying our staff isn't busy, but they're certainly busy, and I'm here every day and see it. And time is a big thing here. I mean, we can hire a couple more staff like the municipality have, and to do something like that, we want a full-time communication person. But again, we're here almost every day of the week pretty well for the month. So again, I don't know how to solve that problem. But again, enticing people to come to the meetings is what we need to have, in my opinion. It's just extra work for our staff. And Deputy Mayor.
You took sort of half this, what I was gonna say. We are a small municipal unit. We've only just recently lost Rob. We've gained Karen. We're trying to figure out who's doing what. Leslie is trying to figure out what she still has to train Karen to do. I mean, there's only so much that staff can do in a small municipal unit. We're not even the municipality who has more staff than we do to actually be able to do that. So.
And you're doing the newsletter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I did it, and I submit it, and
Right.
Tom and Leslie go through and edit it.
But that's what I'm saying, you put it together.
Yeah.
So this council has done a good job in doing extra work and getting it put together for Tom and staff to approve for us. Transit, for example.
Everybody.
Everyone's, you know, doing what we can, so we certainly don't have the budget to hire 2 or 3 more people, that's for sure. I wish we could, absolutely wish we could. But, yes, Tom?
So, yeah, just to build onto that, one thing, the municipality has a dedicated staff person for doing that. Right? And, so, that's the difference in itself right there, is staff time trying to get that. But the thing is that, you know, you get the meetings that most decisions are made are videotaped. Videotapes are posted as soon as they're ready to be posted. And, you know, so, it's not that I don't wanna come across as being against it, it's just a matter of the resources that we have, trying to, you know, every day there's something new that comes down the pipe, or something more that we're gonna add to our list, right? And, it's just, the biggest thing that I see is that, trying to do the job of a reporter, right? Years ago, when we had a paper in Digby, there was a reporter sitting down there taking notes, putting things in the Courier. That was a week later, right? Because, you know, but it was there for people who read the Courier to see what decisions were made by the council and things like that. So we don't have that anymore, right? We don't have a reporter that comes. We don't even have one that will call and say, well, you got any highlights? What did the council decide last night? You know, we don't even have that anymore, right? Which we depended on that for helping to get the message out. So that's a big void Municipality is the same situation. Unfortunately, they have more staff and they have a staff person that can dedicate to putting together the newsletter and different things and putting those communication items together. So.
I'd just like to echo the comments about our staffing situation and putting extra burden on the staff, because sometimes it might work, and other times when it's a real busy time of year, it might cause problems. And I'd also like to mention that with the Alertable app, I think we should continue our program of pushing the Alertable app. And one thing you could do is every now and then mention on the Alertable app that the town website's been updated after council's decisions. We don't have to list all the decisions, but if, you know, the Alertable app mentions that our website's been updated after council's decisions of whatever month, and video is also available on YouTube, and let it go at that. Because as Tom said, we're a small municipality here. We've only got 2,100 residents. We don't need to push our information out to the entire municipality, province, or anything like that. We just need to concentrate on the people we need to reach, and that's in town.
Councilor.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, some really good points. I was just wondering if I could approach some of the staff and just ask them what they thought on this. Is that an option?
No, it's not.
No, Tom's in charge of staff, so if you wanna talk to Tom about it, then absolutely, set up a meeting and talk to him and try to resolve that. Again, our minutes are on our website as well. So I think it boils down to staff, members. We need more staff to do stuff like that. I was actually talking to someone about the transit the other day, who I talk to quite often to keep her updated, and she actually watches us on Eastlink now, so, you know, I'm sure she's told all our transit people that watch Eastlink, right? So
Smile and wave.
there you go, so hopefully, people will watch Eastlink as well. It's on the third Monday of the month is ours, is that right, Tom? Third Monday, is it? Not the first Monday, but the third Monday hours, it's on Eastlink. Eastlink, I think we're broadcasting the third Monday. Yeah, I think it's third Monday, I'm pretty sure it's the third Monday. They don't do it live, so it's, once we get our meeting done here, they send it down to them, so it's the third Monday. So, all right.
Just one last thing there, please.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank you guys for considering that. I didn't mean to ruffle any feathers at all. This is new to me as well. I'm just taking in what I'm hearing, and I just bring it to you guys for decision. Thank you.
M5, lift station number 4. Yep, go ahead, Tom.
Just before,
Sure.
Can I just
Sure, go ahead.
answer Councilor Reed?
Yeah.
This is not personal by any means. This is business. Council has one employee. That's the person who sits in this chair. It's the CAO. The direction to other staff, including the people staff that are sitting in this room, answer to me and is directed by me. That's why
No, that's fine. I'm learning. That's why I asked.
All right. M5, lift station. All right. So this is conduit. This
came to light after we went through our capital budget. And, we have lift station number 4, which is, basically the one down on the waterfront on Admiral's Walk, yeah. So, basically, we knew there was an issue, but we didn't know exactly, to the extent of the issue. And, until we had our engineers and that looked at it, we thought we could, Band-Aid it and fix it, and that's not the issue. So, you know, we basically need to, our recommendation is that council amend the capital investment plan to include the upgrades to lift station number 4. And the dollar amount in that is, $65,937.60, including HST. And, so you can see the breakdown. Engineering is 5,000, equipment and labor is 11,800, pipe and fittings is 12,600, pump equipment is 9,200, vacuum truck is 9,600, and the we have a contingency of 20%, which is 9,640, taxes 6,748, so it brings it down to just under $66,000. So the risk considerations, so the current heater that serves lift station 4 was installed in the early 1990s, and the mechanical fittings are starting to fail. The valves in the lift station are no longer operational, and one of the check valves has failed, causing the wastewater to flow back into the lift station when the pump stopped running. So there are 2 pumps in lift station 4, and they are each currently turning on/off approximately 140 to 225 times per day. The pumps were running on/off approximately 35 times per day prior to the failure of the check valve. This is causing a significant increase in the hydro used at the lift station and extensive wear on our wastewater pumps. We cannot just replace the check valve because of the condition of the header is beyond repair. So it is a necessary thing. If we don't fix it, then we're still going to be paying through the nose because higher cost. And then if we wear out our pumps, it's going to cut down on the lifetime of our pumps.
You might say when it breaks, we'll be in deep sewage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, and, you know, this is the cost, you know, as far as revenue, because it is a lift station, there is cost sharing with the municipality on this item. So, but, what we need so that we can get this going, and like I said, it was not apparent at the time of the capital budget deliberations. So it's basically an emergency situation, and it just hasn't become an emergency. Because if that whole thing fails, we're probably looking at double, maybe triple that amount.
Councilman McCormick? My only question was gonna be, is there any, I guess, damage to the pumps at this point in time? And if there is, or should that be investigated before we go through with this, just in the event that either of them need to be replaced at the same time? Or do we believe at this point in time they're still in good condition?
They're still good.
Okay.
They're still, you know, because this has only been going on for a very short time, right? It got caught, but we need to fix it. Like I said, at first we thought it was just going to be the check valve that could be replaced, but the whole header, there's enough deterioration in the whole heater system that caused the issue. So,
Counselor Foot?
CEO, how long would the system be down to repair this?
basically, that's why they have the system per se won't be down.
But
The
the service for that,
The service will, but that's why if in the list you have the sucker truck.
Okay.
Because
it'll be,
vacuum truck.
keep it empty while they're working.
The vacuum truck will keep the tanks empty while the work is being done.
Okay.
So that's why, right? Because we can't just shut it off, because if we shut it off and let it fill up, and then we have overflows, and we have other issues that we don't wanna deal with.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't wanna deal with them, council doesn't wanna deal with them,
No.
public works don't wanna deal with them.
Yeah.
Because it involves the federal government and federal government regulators.
Yeah.
So we don't wanna deal with them any more than we have to.
Thank you. And, if this is approved, when can the repairs, how long before the repairs can be started?
He can probably, if I tell him tomorrow morning, he can start, not starting repair, but he can start the
planning,
process,
yeah.
the process.
So we're talking sometime within the next few weeks or month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully, yeah, it'll be before the cold weather will set in, because basically, I think he's got some pricing, and he may even have some, pending orders, just waiting for approval. But he has worked on this for a while, getting pricing together and things like that, so.
Thank you.
Any questions answered, I assume? All right, if no other questions, can we have a motion to approve for the lift station number 4 of $65,937.60?
Just the question would be, are we amending the capital investment plan to include the upgrade? Is that part of the motion that you'd like to have?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll move that we amend the capital investment plan to include upgrades to lift station number 4.
Seconder?
I've been heavy lifting, it's time for somebody.
I'll second it.
Counselor Foot? Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So that concludes our meeting. We're now going into camera. Mike, thank you for coming up.
Do we have a motion to go in camera and then?
Yes.
break?
If you want to just sit down for a sec, so, we got a new process going here.
I'll move that we go in camera. How did you figure that?
A motion, we go in camera. Have a seconder? Seconder. All in favor?
Aye.
Camera. We're back.
Alright, can I move that, the CAO move forward with an intermunicipal emergency services agreement between the municipality of the district of Digby, the municipality of the town of Digby, and the municipality of the district of Clare?
Seconder.
Can I just ask,
Oh,
can you repeat that again?
Sure.
Just the first part.
That the CAO move forward with the intermunicipal emergency services agreement?
So, it should be that council approves
Okay.
the signing of the mayor and the CAO to sign.
Perfect, okay, then I'll amend that to, I move that council approves the intermunicipal emergency services agreement between municipality district, Digby, municipality of town, Digby, and municipality district of Clare, and that, it be signed by the CAO and the mayor.
Well done.
Second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And the second one with regards to letter.
Move that the, letter as written by Mark P. Camo, from Taylor, McClellan, Cochran lawyers, be, sent to the recipient.
Seconder?
Second it.
Second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion for adjournment?
Motion for adjournment. Seconder? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.